Today is September the 10th, 2019. My name is Tanya Fincham. I'm with Oklahoma State University. And today we are in the Angie DeBow room in the library here on campus to talk with Gary Shutt, who was the Director of Communications for Oklahoma State University, December 2004 through July 2018.
That's right.
And he continues to support President Hargis, and he's also an adjunct faculty member in journalism, mass comm, or whatever they're calling these days.
Yeah, strategic communications.
Communications. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for coming today.
Sure.
And this is part of our OState Stories collection, and we'll learn a little bit about you, and then we'll move into the Homecoming 2015 incident and go from there. Okay?
All right.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Winfield, Kansas, and grew up in, both my parents grew up in Winfield, Kansas. Moved to Bartlesville when I was 5. My dad got a job at Phillips 66, a good OSU company. And so I grew up in Bartlesville, went to Sooner High School when there were 2 high schools in Bartlesville. There's just 1 now. And then came to OSU in 1970. Wanted to be a sports writer, so got a journalism degree and graduated in 74. While I was here, I got to spend 2.5 years working in the sports information office at OSU. So that was a great experience, met a lot of people and helped open up my first job when I graduated.
How did you come to choose OSU?
Well, a lot of my friends were going here. So Bartlesville was a big OSU town. I visited OU, and because I grew up liking OU football, but visited here and liked it here, had a good journalism program, and a lot of my friends were coming here. So had guys that I knew that I roomed with, and it was just a natural place to be. And I quickly quit being an OU football fan and was an OSU football fan. So.
Well, how did you come the first day? Did your parents come and drop you off, or did you drive down with buddies or drive yourself?
They dropped me off at Cordell Hall. So I started out there my freshman year, and I was fortunate enough to get one of the bricks when we tore it down here recently. So I have a brick from Cordell Hall. So spent my freshman year there, and then was in Kerr my second year, and then I lived off campus the last 2 years.
Did you get homesick your first semester here? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I mean, not really. The only time you kind of have that little bit of homesickness, I think, is when you go home. And on Sunday afternoon, you got to go back to work. It's kind of like everybody when they got to get ready to go back to work on Monday. You kind of drag that out and wait till you're kind of like, well, I'd like to just stay here and do nothing. But no, with all my friends here, and I was involved in sports writing, and then I had the job in the sports information office, so I was pretty busy all the time. And then I did go to class, so I had that part of it. So no, I got here, loved it, and my lifelong friends are guys that many are ones I met here, although a lot of them were ones that I knew from high school. So,
do you have a favorite professor?
Definitely the favorite professor was Dr. Fisher, because I took his, Leroy Fisher, I took his Civil War class, and I love history and the Civil War. So that was a real treasure and an honor to get to be in his class. I had a World War II class, history class, and one day that professor came decked out as an officer. He had a full uniform, and so he kind of added a little flavor to the class. I don't remember his name. And then the other favorite class, none of these are in my major.
That's what I was noticing.
Was film class, and the guy that taught that had been a stuntman, had been a double for the guy that played Cannon on TV. I forget his name, but the guy that played Cannon, he was a stunt double for him at times, and he would just show films and then we'd talk about them. So when he would show a Marx Brothers movie, the place would be packed with people that would come in to watch a movie that didn't even have the class. So it was back before you could stream movies. So, you know, there was an opportunity to see a movie everybody wanted to see. That was one way to do it.
That was in the 70s.
Right.
Late 60s,
right.
In the 70s.
So, but I had some great professors in the journalism class. Dr. Harry Heath was the head of the department. He had written a book on sports writing, and so he was very instrumental. And there was a Dr. Stang that I remember was a really good professor.
Did you change your major along the way, or just stick
No,
with what you came in?
I had been a sports writer. I mean, I had written for the high school paper and loved sports, wanted to be a sports writer. So when I came here, that's what I wanted to do. And I worked as a freshman. I worked at the OOHRP as a sports writer, and then got the job in the sports information office. So.
And then, so if you're working in class, what would you do for fun?
What we did for fun, we goofed off, I guess. You know.
Went to games.
Went to games, and right. I mean, you're going to the sporting events, so went to most of those because I worked the basketball games and football games. I was in charge of track, and so I traveled with the track team and did their preseason publication and kept up with them. So, you know, I was pretty busy with the athletic stuff.
Any events stick out in your mind? Special events during that time?
You know, homecoming wasn't as big as it is today. Of course, I was working the football games and things. So, and I lived off campus, wasn't in a fraternity, so I didn't get that involved in too much about homecoming. I mean, as far as during the time I was here, the big event was, it was the first time there was streaking on the strip, and I did not participate. But when the first time that the Sirloin Stockade bull was pushed down the strip and pushed into Theta Pond, I was down there with one of my roommates and looked up on the bull, and one of our other roommates was on the bull riding it down to the pond to push it into the pond. And that, of course, became kind of a tradition, I think, every year on street night or whatever. So I was there when the first time that the streaking occurred. So it was all this commotion about people. I didn't see anybody that didn't have their clothes on. So fortunately,
your mom called and say, "Was that you?"
There was, no. She probably didn't even know what was going on. So no, she wasn't tweeting and Facebooking. So
were you the first in the family to come to OSU? I guess.
Yeah, I had a younger brother and a younger sister that both went to OSU, so I was the first of three. But neither one of my parents had been to college, so I was the first in my family to go to college. Yeah.
When your dad was with Phillips, what did your mother work outside of the home?
No, she kept children. Was during the days for some years, and then after I left, she did get a job in the school system in the cafeteria area. So she was a secretary and worked in the school administration in Bartlesville. So she did get a job later.
So for tuition, you had to work your way through, or with a little help from them, or how did that work?
Yeah, I got a little help from them, and then when I got the job with the sports information office, that paid tuition and books. So, which wasn't near as much as it is today, but obviously that has all changed. But so that was great because I got my tuition and books through that. So. And
those were the days when you registered on paper,
right?
And stood in line.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. So, and we had to take our phones back to the phone company and take them down to their office and turn them in. You know, you got a phone that you put in your room, and then when the semester was over, you had to take it back down to the phone company and turn it in. I
hadn't heard that. It's usually just the hall phone down.
Right.
Down.
But if you could have a phone in your room, which we did at different times. I don't know if those were not the first year. I think it was the second year we had a phone. Or I had a phone in the
A luxury, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So for graduation, at that point, did you know what your next stop was going to be?
No, but speaking of graduation, I also had a historic graduation because Nixon spoke at my commencement.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that was 74, and he was trying to rally out of Watergate, and Oklahoma was kind of a safe haven for him. I think Governor Bellman had, I don't know, he may not be the governor then, but he was the one that had invited him to come speak. So he spoke at my commencement in 74, and then in August is when he stepped down as president. So it was an interesting time. It was, we had the Secret Service guys around campus, and I'm sure today they maybe dress a little more incognito. Back then they were all in suits, and maybe they still walk around like that, but I would think they probably try to blend in a little more now. So anyway, that was obviously historic. And as it turned out, when I came back here, I'm getting ahead here a little bit, but the first graduation after I came back was President Bush came, second President Bush. So I kind of got to be involved in 2 of the 3 that we've had at OSU. But anyway, I knew I wanted to go into sports writing. So when I graduated, I was trying to get a job, and shortly after graduation, so I just applied and went to some places. And it was my job in the sports information office that had allowed me to meet a lot of different people, the sports editor of the Tulsa World and different papers. And so the sports information office learned about the opening in Ardmore, so I became the sports editor at the Ardmore paper in about June. So it was a few weeks after graduation. I got that job down there thanks to the contacts through the sports information office. So I was down there for a year and a half, and then ended up going to the Tulsa World from there as a sports writer.
So a little further from home and then back.
Right. Yeah.
Well, then just go ahead and take us through your career.
Okay. So yeah, I was sports editor in Ardmore for about a year and a half, which it was an important year and a half because that's when I met my wife. She was living in Missouri. Her brother-in-law, her sister, was married to one of the assistant football coaches at Ardmore High School. They introduced us, and we had a real quick courtship, marriage, whatever. We had our first date on Memorial Day on July 4th. Oh, I'm sorry. We met on Memorial Day weekend. We had our first date. I'm sorry. So we had our first date on around Memorial Day. Okay. Decided to get married on July 4th.
And of the same year.
Of the same year. And then at Thanksgiving, we were married. So anyway, I do know it. But yes, it was all that same summer. So we got married in November of 75, and then I took a job at the Tulsa World in December of 75. So we didn't even live in Ardmore, we moved to Tulsa. So I was the high school sports beat guy there for 4 years. 79, then I went to University of Arkansas. Rick Schaefer, who had been the assistant sports information director here and is an OSU grad, he became the sports information director at Arkansas. So I went over there as his assistant. Was there 2 years, and it was an exciting time. Coach Sutton, Eddie Sutton, was the basketball coach, and Lou Holtz was the football coach. So it was a fun time to be at Arkansas. And in those 2 short years, both of our sons were born. One was born right as we got there, and one was born right as we left. In fact, I had to wait before I left. So then I took a job with Southwestern Bell in Oklahoma City in 1981. So I was at Arkansas 2 years. Spent almost 24 years with Southwestern Bell, moved from Oklahoma City to St. Louis. Then we moved the headquarters to San Antonio, SBC, which now is AT&T again. So it acquired AT&T. They've since moved to Dallas, but they were still headquartered in San Antonio when I moved. So had the opportunity, wasn't looking to leave there. I had a really good job. I was in PR all that time with SBC. I was the chairman's speechwriter for a while and headed up employee communications and had a bunch of different jobs, which was great because they moved you around and you didn't get real stale in one area. But had the opportunity to come back here to head up communications, PR and communications at Oklahoma State, and thought, wow, what a wonderful opportunity. Wanted to get back to Oklahoma. Both of our parents, my wife and I's parents, were in Oklahoma. And so I came here in December of 04. My first day on the job was January 3rd, whatever the Monday would be, first Monday of January of 2005. And we got here on the weekend, and I was moving our stuff into a duplex, and I got a call from the president's office saying, we need you to come up here as soon as you can. Les Miles is leaving as football coach, and we've got to hire a new coach. So, which we knew all that was going on. So I left on that Saturday, and as I was going into the president's office, I met Les Miles leaving the president's office. And Sunday we held meetings at the president's house. It was David Schmidley was the president. So we were at the Wilhelm House that Sunday doing the interviews, and they interviewed Mike Gundy and others. And on Monday then, we had our press conference to name Mike Gundy as football coach. So my first day on the job was press conference naming a new football coach, and Coach Gundy's still going strong. So it was obviously a great hire. So
on both counts.
Yeah, well, thanks. He lasted longer than I did. So, but he's younger than I am. So, anyway, that was a great hire. It was, it was a fun way to start my time at Oklahoma State.
So the director of communication would actually be involved in that process of hiring the coach, or were you just there to control the media part?
Well, I was just there I didn't set in on the actual interviews. I was just at the president's house, and it just so happened things were moving so fast, they were bringing some of the coaches in. Most of the interviews they did over the phone. Mm-hmm. And so it involved the president and members of the Board of Regents. And I was just there in case we needed to announce anything or make sure we didn't need to announce anything or whatever. So I wasn't making any decisions. And then was involved because it involved the president, making the announcement, making the ultimate choice.
So you would write the verbiage for what would be said
right,
at the press
conference. Right,
news
release and the talking points and whatever needed to be said the day we made the announcement.
That was an exciting way to start.
Yeah, it was. So it was fun. So, and it seemed like things just kept hopping the whole time. So a lot happened in the time I was here. So a lot of great things and a lot of number of sad things. But it was very rewarding, and the honor of getting to do it at the school where you went to school was great, because I had a connection and a passion for the university. So to get to come back and be involved with what was going on and play a part was an honor.
So you would have served under three different presidents.
Well, yes. I mean, just really David Schmidley, and then Marlene Straight was interim. Yeah. And then President Hargis. Okay. So just really two. So President Hargis came in 2008, and to just have been here under his leadership was a tremendous honor, just to be here for that period. I mean, he's been a transformative president with the things he's accomplished in his leadership, and getting so much support behind him, and his vision for what he wanted to do, and being able to achieve it. So to get to be here during all of that was really an honor. I feel very fortunate to been here.
I'm thinking the timeline, you would have been here then when Brandon's success was such a success.
Right. So we launched the $1 million campaign and had the big event out here for Boone Pickens for his birthday, and one of his major gifts, we rolled the banner down the library tower, and so my group was in charge of that event. So we worked with the foundation. The foundation in that case for the campaign, I mean, the foundation headed that up. They handled the campaign, but we certainly then supported it. So.
Well, on a typical day, what would someone in your position do? Just a typical day.
Yeah, that's funny because I always think about at the end of the day, what did I actually do? But that's like a lot of jobs, I guess. So, during the academic year, it may have been doing something for the president, so there might be something going on. But as far as the office, we're trying to get out great news about Oklahoma State. So we are talking to different parts of the university to get stories and figure out what we need to be communicating. And then a big part of the job was if you get media calls. So if something's in the news, they call our office. And so it could be determined by, what might have been going on in the world or in Oklahoma or across a college campus or in our campus. So, a lot of times something might have happened, somewhere across the country, and the media wants to call us to see what we're thinking about it. In a lot of cases, we would just soon not get involved in those discussions and maybe take a pass. But sometimes it would involve us, speaking and being there on record. So, there was that part of it, and then just working with the other leaders of the campus to help achieve their goals. I mean, the different colleges. There's communicators in all the colleges and in most areas, like the library has a communications person. Mm-hmm. So we're there just to help support what they're trying to do and work with them. It's not a central group where everybody reports into my office, but we certainly had regular meetings and communicated. And I think, the more we worked together, the better it was that we could help promote what they were doing. And, people sometimes complain, well, we never got that, we heard about that, or, our answer usually is, if we don't hear about something, we can't talk about it. So parts of the university need to make sure we are aware. And that's, I think that's part of I've always heard this, and I think it's somewhat true at OSU. We're a culture of people that are kind of like cowboys. We don't boast about what we do, we just do our job and go on. So a lot of times it takes somebody else to say, hey, this professor just won this award or is doing something, because you don't have that many people that are out, tooting their own horn. So we need other people telling us about those achievements so we can talk about it. So
you have to stay aware of current events, sounds like.
Right.
As well as now social media to keep up with what's going on too.
Right. Yeah, when I started in 2005, so I mean, we're talking about a very small little blip in time. There was no social media. I mean, it wasn't anything we were dealing with. We were just starting to use the internet to get things out. I mean, there was an internet, it was there, but I mean, we were really starting to use it. There wasn't video, really, to be able to use video because YouTube was just getting started. So it was mostly, we were sending stuff out print. And so then we started getting, emails and started doing emails. And then when social media came along, we really had to obviously beef that up and start tracking that. And that changed everything because, students, and we're a community of 30-some thousand people, and some of them adults and students make mistakes and do something, foolish or illegal or whatever, and it now gets out there real quick. One of my favorite anecdotes from that was we had a shooting at one of the fraternities, or no, I'm sorry, it was over by the fraternities. It was an apartment, and the story was that this guy barged into their room and pulled out a gun and shot the one student. And so the ambulance comes, they get the student in the ambulance, and he was in the ambulance Facebooking and tweeting what was going on. So, we have no way to control what's getting out there. So all of a sudden, the guy that's been shot's in the ambulance letting the world know. He wasn't doing a Facebook Live. That wasn't being done at that time. But, now you've got that. So, the news, you just got to be ready to go, because as soon as something happens, the world's going to know about it.
I guess that's something has changed in your career from
Right.
people would know your name, but maybe not your face.
Right.
Initially.
Yeah.
And now it's both.
Right. So, and that's why, you warn young people and everybody that you be careful of what you're saying online, because you're not just speaking to some friends. I mean, it's it has an opportunity to go real broad, real fast. So, and that's been the problem with a lot of our, or behind a lot of the issues that we've had over on campus, whether it's students doing something stupid and making racial comments and, whatever it might be, it's been fueled or gone forward by social media. And that's the world that we live in. So
that's some of what the fires you might have to put out.
Right.
So to speak.
Right. So, but it's so yes, a typical day. Back to that, it's hard to say, and that's what's fun about PR, and that's what I tell the students that I talk to. I said the great thing about this career is you don't know what's going to happen every day, and a lot of jobs can say that, but in PR, the key to PR, and again, this is what I preach to the students, is wherever you're working, know your organization across the board from top to bottom, because you're the person that needs to know and speak about your company across whatever it might be. And you can't know everything, but know the people that know. So, I mean, when I got a call about this or that, I knew who on campus to call, whether it was something with veterinary problem or, the mistreatment of an animal. And I don't, a lot of times that wasn't the veterinary school, so I'm not wanting to place blame, but we've had incidents where there was, mistreatment, accused of mistreatment of animals. I knew the people to call, and, whatever it might be, we could get to the right people. So the key for somebody in PR, the fun part to me, is that you get to be involved in all areas of an organization. And if you're the leader of that communication, then you're dealing with the leadership. And what you're doing in communications is supporting the goals of just about all of those organizations. So they all need to help promote what they're doing. So communications plays a big role in the whole leadership team in them achieving their success. So, it's an important role, and it's fun and a lot of variety. And so I was I loved the time that I had here and felt very fortunate.
Would you have to check with the legal team on at least on occasion, I would think?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if certain statements, if things were involved legal as far as personnel issues, I mean, we had a real good relationship with our legal counsel, and which I had done at corporate PR when I was with SBC. I mean, we ran traps with all the attorneys, and so yeah, that's an important part, is to make sure what you're doing is legal, and legal a lot of times. I mean, what they'll tell you is, I'm telling you what, you can go a little farther than they maybe advise, but I don't think it's all that wise to do that. So we've always had great attorneys here, and they've been great to work with.
I'm thinking before you send out some press releases, you might have to check on.
Right. Yeah.
I
And
couldn't say that much.
even if it's not legal, that's all part of it, is that approval process of getting the right people to approve something. And there's the urge to be immediate and to get things fast, and that's something that I always tried to tell everybody is, let's make sure it's right before we get it out. You don't want to just rush to get something out there and then you've made a mistake or it's not accurate. So you still got to be concerned with accuracy.
Don't have to walk it back. You don't
Right.
have to walk it back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't want to misrepresent the other part of the business that you don't want somebody calling and saying, why'd you guys say this? Or this isn't what we're doing, or whatever. I mean, so you want to make sure you've got it blessed and the right people have approved it.
Do you have in mind what was your worst day?
Well, I mean, there were two that would come to the head, and that would be the plane crash with Coach Budke, in which he and Coach Serena was killed, and then the two folks from Ponca City, and then the parade tragedy.
Those would be your two.
Yeah. So I mean, those were, as far as bad days and just dealing with something terrible that happened. It's hard to get around those. I mean, we had some other days where people were killed and things like that, but those would be the two really terrible tragedies.
And then the flip side of that, 2 good days, 2 of your best days.
Well, I think, the day we celebrated Mr. Pickens' birthday out here, and he gave that big gift, and then, many of the groundbreakings and things we did for the big facilities, the Branding Success campaign when we completed that, naming President Hargis as president obviously turned out to be a great day. When they celebrated their 10th anniversary, that was special to have gotten to be here that whole time, because we played we kind of organized that little event. So those, and then, going to being a sports fan, then just from a sports side of it, the thrills of some of the big football wins, winning the Big 12 the one year, and then basketball. It's always fun when we beat Kansas at Gallagher Arena. I mean, those are thrills, but those were from a fan standpoint. So just the major fundraising, getting to open some of these great facilities, and the celebration of President Hargis's 10 years because of the impact he's had on the university.
And you would have been here when they opened Boone Pickens Stadium, when that renovation was finished, right?
Right.
2009,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Right. So we did that before the Georgia game.
That would have been a big deal.
Yeah, that was 2005, I guess. So, or 6, was it? What? Yeah, I forget.
I was thinking it was 9, but I could
Okay,
be,
well, you're probably right.
I could be
yeah,
wrong.
you're probably right. I mean, it was all going on during that time.
Yes.
It was kind of underway when I got here. So,
It was a long process, yes.
The opening of Boone Pickens Stadium, obviously, so was a big deal.
Well, when you got back, were any of your professors still here that you had?
No,
Too
I
much
know
time had
Lee
passed.
Manzer was here. I didn't have him, but no, none of them were here. So
It would have been neat to go.
right,
Look around.
right, yeah. So Dr. Fisher, I think he had just. I'm trying to think when he passed away, but I think I'm trying to remember if I had an opportunity to meet him. Now I've kind of forgotten. But,
They didn't try to talk you into being a history major and go
no,
down that route.
no, maybe I wasn't even that good at it, but I love it. So no, I never had that. But that's basically what I still read is history books. So that's where my interest is.
Okay, so during your time, let's talk about OState stories. Not OState stories. That's what we do. OStateTV.
Yeah.
Getting launched.
Okay. Well, that was an effort, something that President Hargis certainly wanted us to pursue. And so we had some help from an alum who was involved in that industry that gave us some counsel. And so we wanted to launch a streaming service so that we weren't just relying on YouTube to have our own dedicated channel for Oklahoma State videos. So the plan was to do, from an academic standpoint, but also to try to do as much sports as we could in athletics. That didn't really pan out just because of the Big 12 agreement. And now, we do have an agreement with ESPN and a streaming agreement with them. So that was kind of what we had envisioned for OStateTV to be, but it didn't quite work. But we've used it to showcase videos and certainly sports videos. And so we launched it, and I didn't look at the dates, but we hired a consultant out of Chicago who had been involved in that industry that helped us determine the best route to go. And so we spent, I don't know, a good portion of a year kind of just ironing out what this was going to look like, and launched it in September of, I don't know if it was it 50? I forget what year, maybe 13, I forget what year it was. And we were able then, that was where we could then start housing President Hargis's, the Inside OSUs that he does. Okay. So it was the reason we did it, and so we've since changed vendors, so we have a different vendor, so it's even more streamlined. But I think the real benefit that it's been now is to be able to do the live streaming that it does. So we do a lot of events, work real close with ITLE, and they are a partner in handling it. Andy Wallace, that worked in my office and is still there, and he's also an adjunct professor, heads it up. And the goal was to use students as much as possible in doing a lot of the videos, which we have done. The Stratcom also has a video there now. It's OOHRP, so they're kind of doing a lot of their own work. But the whole point of it was to have one place to place and promote OSU videos. And so we launched it. We did videos of the different colleges, and so it's been, I think it's been it's obviously evolved with the social media now. The big part of it is just being able to send out messages to get people to go look at them, because the challenge at first was we would post videos, but how do you get people to know they're there and to go see them? Social media has certainly helped that. And I think one move they're trying to do now is use it as much as possible to help, and we've always done this, but to do even more to help with recruiting of students. And so, for instance, when the enrollment office is working with a student from high school, if they indicate an interest in engineering or whatever their interest might be, they'll send them videos, links to videos about things going on in that area at OSU. So a lot of different ways to use it. And, so I was certainly proud of being able to be involved in that. But that was something the president made the commitment to help us get that going. He saw the need in having a place to house it. A lot of universities still, I think, just use YouTube. They have YouTube channels, but YouTube continues to change their model. In a lot of those cases, I mean, you're still showing commercials. Sometimes ads, and you can't maybe control what those necessarily are. So with OStateTV, it's ours. It's dedicated. It's our own streaming service. The only kind of this bittersweet part of all of that was that the man that I worked with on that project, who was the consultant out of Chicago, who I got to know really well, he came down with lung cancer and just all of a sudden got really bad, and he died about the week we launched it, and had been with us all along to help launch it, and got to know him pretty well. And he passed away like the week we launched or right before it or whatever. So it was interesting, the timing. But he was a great guy and was a big help.
Do you recall the first episode? What the topic was?
Well, we did a bunch of spots. So as far as OStateTV, it's really it's a variety. So the colleges send in videos. We used a lot from what Ag does in Sunup, their TV show, so we used those. But what we did for the launch was a series of about 14 videos that we had produced, promoting the different colleges, promoting Spirit, promoting the university. So that was kind of the rollout. So those were really the first ones. And then we've continued to do the Inside OSU, which is the show President Hargis has done, which we started as soon as he arrived here at OSU. He came in March of 2008, and so in the spring or in the fall of 2008, that first semester, we started doing his Inside OSU's. He's now done, I don't have the exact number, it's about 120 of them, I think. And so, he's done something on the equine program where he got on a horse and rode around, and we put him in the flight simulator, and he's been all over doing all kinds of things. So he's great on TV, and so he's enjoyed doing that. So that's been a way to kind of showcase programs and people, and then we do a lot of it. He interviews the guests that we have on campus. So he interviewed Tony Blair, he interviewed Shaq O'Neal, he's interviewed a lot of different people that have been on campus.
I'm wondering if he's going to be interviewing some that's coming in for the McKnight Center.
Well, we're going to do an Inside OSU when it's all over with, kind of the whole rollout of it. So
at the end of the season or something.
Yeah, just after it's been launched and opened. So, but we've been doing, there's been a number of videos we've been doing for the launch. So
I was reading somewhere where there's been 5,000. Does that sound right? At least 5,000 videos made for it.
For Inside OSU?
No.
Or OStateTV?
Yeah. Yes.
That's probably right. Yeah,
seems like a lot.
Yeah, it is. And that includes videos that other areas have done and just posted to OStateTV.
So looking back over your 14, 15 years in that position as director, are there a couple of high points? I mean, not your best days like we asked before, but career-wise, high points.
Yeah. Well, I think just one, getting to work with President Hargis and just how the university has moved forward. The other was just getting to oversee the change in the office and how we did things, bringing on people to do video, bringing on people to do social media. We were able to make great hires. We brought in really good people that knew what they were doing. So just that evolution of moving to a new era from a technology standpoint. So kind of moving the office forward and just getting to work with all the people at OSU. I mean, OSU, it's wherever I went, the people I worked with were great, always very accommodating, and that's at the end of the day, that's what makes a job a good job or a bad job, is the feelings and the what you achieved and what the people that you dealt with throughout the day. I mean, if you don't like the people you work with all day and you didn't get anything done and your stomach's bothering you, it's probably time to get another job. And I just say, just leaving work every day and feeling good about what I did and the people that I worked with, and having a good feeling, getting ready to come back the next day.
Was it typically an 8-hour day, 40-hour week?
No,
Yeah.
Probably not. So, you may get calls from the media at all hours. I mean, I got woke up one morning at 3 a.m. when one of our football players was killed in Dallas in a car accident. So, and when we had the plane tragedy, that was an early morning call. So, no, usually, but with technology, fortunately, you can do a lot away from the office now. You're not tied to that computer or that phone, so it's got its good and its bad. It means you can't get connected, but the good side is you are connected. So sure, it was long days, but again, that's kind of the nature of the job. This is totally aside from me, but it just reminds me that I always marveled in the way we are today with technology, that my dad, that we would go off on a vacation to California for 2 weeks. There was no way anybody could get a hold of him. This was in the mid-60s. The office, because we didn't know night to night what motel we were going to stay in. So, unless he just called the office, so when you went on a vacation back in those days, you pretty much were on a vacation. So unless you left some forwarding phone number or called in. So, obviously the world's changed a little bit, but.
Those were the good old days,
right.
weren't they?
Yeah.
Now you have to turn your phone off, or that's the first thing you check when your eyes open in the morning.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been a good career, sounds like.
It has. I've been very, very fortunate, and the education I got at OSU, and just the connections, the people that I met in working in the sports information office, opened up my first, my first job opportunity, which then led to the next, and it led to the next one, and then to the next one, and then even my job at Southwestern Bell was because I knew someone from my sports writing days from my second job. So anyway, the people I met here, and the networking and the opportunities that opened up, and then just the education and experience that I got here set me on my way. So yeah, very, very, very blessed.
Well, let's transition then into that day, October the 24th, 2015.
Yeah.
So how did your day start? Just take us through that day as best you remember.
Okay. Well, my son, who now lives in Edmond, has 3 children, and so we took them to the homecoming parade for the first time. I had gone to the parade from time to time, which usually had something to do with the president or something. but it was the first time we had taken them to the parade, and they were 8, 5, and 2, I guess. And we were right down on Main Street downtown. And in fact, I went back and looked at some of the pictures that we took of them. So we were just there on the street, Main Street, middle of downtown, watching it. And so when it was over, that when the parade passed us, we got to the car pretty quick and got back to our house. And we were out in the driveway shooting baskets and just playing in the driveway. They were riding around. And I got a call from Jane Braden, who works for a PR firm in Oklahoma City, the Gooden Group. So her boss, Brent Gooden, that's his company. He's an OSU grad and works with OSU. So he's someone that I worked with throughout my career, and Jane. So, and she's an OSU grad. Well, her grandson was in the parade for cancer, the cancer awareness parade. He was a cancer survivor, the parade, the float for cancer survivors. He since has passed away. He was only 3 or 4 at the time. They were, her husband was with him on the float, and when they got to the end of the parade, so they were right there at the end of the parade at the intersection. And when the car then rammed into everyone, so Jane called me, I was just out in our driveway, and said, I mean, when she explained to me, I was thinking there might be 10 or 12 people that had died, because she was thinking bigger numbers. She actually even spoke to the young lady because she was sitting outside of her car. She went over there, so she was right there when it happened, and so told me kind of the basics. I called the president and didn't get him. He was already home because he was the first one in the start of the parade. So he and the first lady had driven to their house. They were at home. I think he said they were having coffee. I didn't reach him. I called Mike Robinson, the chief of police. He didn't know about it. He was driving to town and had not heard. So I told him what I knew, and so then he was going to check into that. So I think next I probably talked to Gary Clark, the general counsel for the university, and knew then I needed to get up to the president's office. So we met at the president's office. So it was President Hargis, Joe Hall, who was the chairman of the Board of Regents, was there. He was here for the game, and Gary Clark and Mike Holder. And I really can't remember who else might have been there. So kind of the first topic was, what are we going to do about the game? And, kind of gather information of what was happening. And at some point during that, we determined we were going to have a press conference at 12:30. This happened at around 10:30. The parade started at 9:30. The accident happened, I think, about an hour later, about 10:30. And but the discussion was made about the game. And I think kind of the bottom line, what are you going to do? What are 60,000 people going to do if you cancel the game? You're going to kind of let them disperse and kind of mourn by themselves. Is it better to go ahead and have the game so people at least are together? And I think that, and Coach Holder and KU, he was talking to KU, they were agreeable to do, whatever was decided to do. And the consensus was we should play the game. And I think as it turned out, it was an opportunity for people to start the healing process of coming together in that stadium, and the team came out and, they knelt and prayed and it was a way for them to at least be together at that time. So I think that was important. There was enough time that they were getting, most of the people had been moved. I mean, you weren't starting to play football, and there was still people laying in the street. So there was enough time had lapsed to do that. The president's office, the president received a few calls and letters, people complaining that we had the game. And I remember one was from Alabama. It was a person that wrote a letter, and another from California. And kind of my thought was, you weren't here. You have nothing to do with this university. You maybe never even stepped foot in Oklahoma. They just were aghast that we would play a football game when something like that happened. But, it's easy to criticize something when you're not even in, you're 1,000 miles away. So I think for the most part, seeing that was probably the best thing to do, to go ahead and have the game. Our office, one of the first things we did, and Megan Horton, who was over social media and still is for the university, and is one of those really good hires that I'm proud that we got to bring in. She was over our social media network. And so what she did at about 11 o'clock was, so within about half an hour, she sent a message to all the people who handle social media accounts for the university to tell them, this has happened. Don't send out any, cancel all of your tweets. Don't send anything out, because we didn't want somebody sending something frivolous out from an OSU account at a time like this, and that we would be providing more information, soon. So at about, shortly after that, it was 11, it was before noon, we then sent out a tweet from the university saying that this had happened, and we were monitoring the situation. So at 12:30, so then after the decided the game was going to be played, we then worked up kind of some comments for President Hargis to make. And so at 12:30, we had the press conference downtown at the City Hall, and President spoke, Gina Noble spoke, and the Sergeant Lieutenant Hibbs, I forget his title, he spoke to give kind of details from the police of what had occurred and what information they had at that time. So we had that, and then from there we went to the stadium, and that's kind of a blur of what happened there. And I know we ended up, when we got there, we went up to the top of the stadium, and we were on the roof of the stadium when I think a lot of it, we were just trying to get President Hargis so he could get into his suite, and then the game started at its regular time and played the game, and then from my office we just started monitoring the situation. So we sent out a release that day with what details we had. So by the end of the day, we had, because I think the little boy lived till the next day, I believe. So anyway, we were just getting out information, contacting Scott Petty and others to start trying to find out what we could, and addressing the media. And just an indication of how the news travels. And I always go back and look at this. I have a folder of the parade tragedy. And the first email I have in there at about, so it happened around 10:30, I think 10:56, was from CNN. A reporter at CNN saying, what can you tell us about? I didn't even see that email till way later in the day, so I never even responded to that. And I didn't really have information at that time. So after the game, in fact, even before the end of the game, went back to the office and we just started gathering information that we could to get word out. And over that next week, we had the ceremony, the memorial service.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, they had the candlelight vigil at the student union, which we didn't have too much to do with that. That was kind of a student effort, and so the students were involved in that. But certainly it helped as the media wanted to attend that. So it was just working that the next several days, all day, and then we were getting ready for that. The first, the memorial service we had, and I can't remember how many days later it was, but that's where we wanted that and that was at the Gallagher Iba, and that was to celebrate the first responders and then honor the lives of the people that were killed. And the whole Stillwater Strong tag came, and so that all started, and we helped with creating the graphic for that, and then just trying to help tell the story and get information out there. President Hargis started visiting the hospitals right from the start, so we were working with, and that's where Jane Braden, because she does a lot of work, PR work for the hospitals, helped us arrange those. So he started going to the hospitals because we had people in Oklahoma City, we had people in Tulsa, and people here. And so President Hargis, he was, and Ann were going to visit the survivors in a lot of those hospitals over the next several days. So we helped facilitate that so they could go wish them well and see how they were doing. And fortunately, no one further perished from the initial incident. From all those that they did a great job, and they credit a lot of that to the fact that the first responders were there, because they had floats and there were people that were there that could immediately start helping, and that saved some lives.
I probably know the answer to this, but in preparation for something like this, did the university have protocol in place if something X happens during the parade? What would
Well,
response be?
you try to be as specific. I mean, we have a crisis plan,
Okay.
and it has to be fairly broad, because there's no way you can anticipate something that could happen. I mean, who could anticipate that somebody was going to drive a car into the parade at the end of the parade? I mean, so you kind of kick into your protocol and your process for getting with and that's where knowing the right people. I mean, we work with the police on a regular basis. We work with the city. So the people that need to, you already know and have relationships with the people you need to work with. And you just, having done a crisis plan where you try to come up with placeholder statements, rarely do you go back and get those, but just the fact you've gone through that exercise to do it helps you then create what needs to be done at the time. So there's a process that we try to follow, but you don't get a binder off the shelf and go through it that way. It just doesn't work that way. But if you prepared that binder, you've done that, that's helped to prepare you. I mean, you don't go get on a stage and play a piano in front of 10,000 people without practicing, without going through the work. And so the day-to-day job prepares you to be ready.
Did you go back and review and change anything?
Would I go back?
Or did you? Would you or did you?
Well, there wasn't too much that we could have. As far as the plan, no. I mean, we didn't really. The plan, I think, and it's been updated. I mean, there's something you try to do from time to time. the one thing that I would have done different, and as it turned out, the person who was kind of my right-hand person through all that was Carrie Halsey Green, who was the other media person. She just happened to be in Houston, out of town. She was not able to really help us at all. So the thing that I would like to have done is probably got kind of the initial messages out a little quicker. But I was working with the president on trying to get ready for that press conference. But you know, we got word out. I mean, in the scheme of things, that wasn't important. I mean, what was important was trying to make sure people were safe and people were getting taken care of. And you know, we held the press conference, and
Was there a particular reason it was held where it was held?
Well, the city, one, with a game day, it was kind of packed. The campus was kind of packed. The city, because it happened on a city street, they were the lead investigators on it. So I think it was just determined it was, it was a city event, OSU's homecoming parade, but the city was the one that was heading up and leading the response to the emergency. So that was, and again, I think just to get it away from campus because there was so much going on here.
It seems like the university and the city itself has a pretty good working relationship.
Yes,
to deal with.
Definitely. Yeah,
this.
the police have a really good working relationship, and we've always tried to work closely. You know, we've had OSU employees who were mayor, Gina Noble being one. We've had them on city council. So, you know, that's the way it should be. I mean, we're a big part of the city, but we're a part of the city. We're not bigger than the city. So, but it's important that we be involved, and it only makes sense that people at OSU would be people that would want to get involved in their local community in certain ways. So, yeah.
Did the university have anything involved with the memorial site?
Well, that was really, we certainly helped in supporting it, but it was really led by the Stillwater Strong and the Medical Center Foundation. Scott really headed that. So the university was clearly supportive and helped. And Gary Sparks, of course, he's not with the university, but he helped with the memorial. So yeah, I mean, the OSU was happy to participate in that.
I think Scott had said that they passed the bucket at a couple of the football games for various things. That may have not been something that came through your office to be granted permission or whatever to do that sort of thing.
Right, and we don't. Football is really up to athletics.
So whatever Larry Reese said that day was them deciding what to say, not coming from your office. Communication.
Oh,
was.
You mean at the day of the accident, or the?
Yeah.
Actually, I think I did help in preparing that. So I got with Larry and we talked about that. So I'm trying to remember, but I worked with him on that. So, and he of course is a comforting voice for our fans and always does a great job. I mean, he's been an important voice in a lot of the tragedies at OSU. So he's a comforting voice. People know.
From the remember the 10 to
right.
Remember the 4 and
yeah.
This.
Right.
We've had our share.
Yeah, we certainly have. And it all goes back to, we had a president who was killed in a plane crash. So Dr. Bennett. So when you think about the university and what we've had happen with tragic plane crashes, I mean, that that was obviously a huge tragedy too.
And the resiliency.
Yeah.
Say that.
Right. Yeah. So.
Are you aware of any lingering impacts, effects from that particular event?
You mean on me
or on in general?
Anybody? Well, I mentioned to you before we rolled the tape, my granddaughter was 8 and at the time. And so she was there as just playing as I'm telling my wife and son and his wife kind of what happened when I first heard about it. So, you know, she's taking that in and then she hears more about it. And for a couple of years after that, she was hesitant to spend the night in Stillwater because she asked if the person was in jail or was they still in their car. So, you know, we have no way of knowing how something like that can traumatize people you think wouldn't even be really thinking about it. So multiply that across the community of others who were a lot closer to it than she was. So that's at least one person I know that had some effect, and you know, she's gotten older, and that's not an issue, but it's you know, the thing that, and you just said resiliency is just OSU people, you know, how we rally around in this community, how it rallied around, and that's true. Most communities come together in terrible times like that, but Stillwater's a special place, and to see how people helped each other, and you know, the outpouring of support from the ag communications because of the stones and the love that people had for the two of them. You know, they were all wonderful people, but they were wonderful people that had lived a longer life, and people really knew them and thought so much of them. So just the impact of their deaths on the other employees. So you know, it touched a lot of people. But just to see how they all rallied behind their family, and so it just showed once again, you know, the hearts of people, and that's it was good to see all that. But it was a terrible, terrible thing that you just could not understand what clicked, what went off in her head to do what she did. So
can't predict it either.
No, you can't predict it. You can't understand it. So, but a lot of people sure responded in an incredible way to make it not as bad as it could have been. So.
And did your office have anything to do with the memorials that were left on that people would bring things and drop them off on that corner? Did they have
No, and I know the library archives then took those on, or took on some of them. I guess couldn't take all of them. We really didn't. You know, those things just are organic and just kind of happen, and we didn't have anything.
Any input for 2016 parade? Did your office or the university have any?
Well,
that you're aware of?
Right. I mean, we talked about what we would do for the 1 year mark of it. So, and you know, we recognized it, but we did talk to the Alumni Association about what would be appropriate and what we should do. So, and I'm not exactly sure everything that did happen, but you know, it was marked. And then of course had the ceremony for the memorial. That was in 18, wasn't it?
Yeah. Dedication for the.
Yeah. So the memorial. So that was 3 years later. So, but yes, we talked to the Alumni Association about what would be, what they would want to do and kind of how to handle that. So,
Been a long 3 years and 4 years, I guess, coming up on 5.
Right. Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to believe those things.
Yeah, and I understand that it's next year's the 100th anniversary of the official homecoming.
That's right.
Events.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's, yeah. So it'll be a big one.
A big to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And you won't be here to push that out. Huh?
No, I'll let the youngsters do that. So yeah, they'll do just great.
So these days, you mentioned that you're an adjunct and you're working for Hargis. You want to talk a little bit about what a typical day is now for you?
During the school year, summer slows down. During the school year, I teach on Tuesday and Thursday. So in the spring, I taught a crisis communications class. So that was fun. And they had not taught one in several years. I don't know when the last time they really had a crisis communications class. So it was mostly graduating seniors. So it was an elective, but we talked about crisis, and I shared things from the things that had happened at OSU, and then we looked at things going on in the news. And unfortunately, there's a crisis every day that you can talk about and look at how companies handle them. The final that I had for them was on the Boeing situation with their the software, the Max 737 Max, I think it is. So that was the final. Then this fall, I'm teaching a class on sports information, which is PR in sports. So it's being a sports information director, which they really don't call them that anymore, but that's basically what it is. Because I have experience in that, although when they asked me to do it, I said, well, my experiences was with a typewriter and licking envelopes and stuffing mailers and things like that, but I can talk about that all day. So, but the general job has changed. It's just the technology's made it a lot different. So, and I've got several people coming in to speak from the sports information office, and so that's been fun. It's fun to do that. In fact, our curriculum is based on, we have a fantasy football league, and they each have a team, and they're the PR person for that team. So they've already written a preseason preview of their team. I'm going to at some point give them a crisis, and they have to develop a crisis plan about how they would handle that, some campaign things. So it's a great little framework for helping them see what they would do if they were the PR person for an actual organization. So, and it keeps them interested in getting to playing this fantasy football. So anyway, so that's fun. So anyway, that's Tuesday, Thursday, and then the other time it's just kind of keeping up with whatever President Hargis might be doing, whether he's talking to a student group or a civic group or whatever. It's just helping prepare his bullets and remarks for those. And I've been doing it long enough that we kind of have I don't know if it's the way he likes it, but it's the way I've been sending it to him for 10 years. So I guess it works. So anyway, I just provide him with background when he goes and gives talks, which he's involved in things constantly. So that's just working with his office, with his scheduler, and making sure I'm staying on top of that. And then if we're doing videos, we do a lot of video messages. And if he can't be in an event, he might do a video message. So we get those recorded. And then if he needs to make a statement about something that going on, maybe doing that, or writing letters that go in state magazine, or helping with other things. So it's just any kind of support he might need. So I'm able to do that pretty much from home.
That was my next question. How often do you come to campus then?
Yeah, it's really just those 2 days a week, and I can do all the things I do for him from home. I may get here when we have a calendar meeting with him occasionally, just sit down, and so I'll come to campus then, or if we're doing a video. But for the most part, I can do it from home, so that's nice.
Would you? Well, you probably wouldn't be the one that has something to send when it sends out when they close campus, like for the ice storm or whatever.
Well, I did when
you were the
right.
director.
We were the ones that sent those out. Now that's the folks here, the team here, because it doesn't really involve him. I mean, he obviously approves, but he does the communications office now handles that, working with the police department. They make that determination through Joe Weaver's office. It's funny. So I did those for all those years, and hear the students complaining when we didn't do it, and happy when we did. Well, last spring when I was teaching that course, 3 times class got canceled, and I'm like, it's not even that bad. Why are they canceling? Because it threw me behind on I was as happy as the students that I'd have to go, but it did kind of throw me behind on the planned curriculum and what I was doing. So, but I was seeing it from a different side when I was a faculty or an adjunct, waiting to see if I had to go to school or not.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, you err on the side of caution, don't we?
Right. Yeah, and they do. Yeah, and so often, this bad weather comes in the middle of the night, so you have to kind of make a decision. You don't really want people having to wake up at 5 o'clock to decide. I mean, you try to. So a lot of times it's done on the forecast, and there's times when they're just
way off,
not even close. And the other issue for Stillwater is you have all the parents that have kids in school here that work at the university. Well, if the Stillwater schools are going to be closed, how does that affect? I mean, that's not the basis for making the decision, but it's a factor, because you kind of want to sync up with the local schools, because otherwise it kind of messes people up. But yeah, it's a tricky thing. And President Harris likes to tell the story with social media that, we'd send messages. He got a tweet one time, when we had class and students were in an uproar. One student sent him a tweet and said, President Harris, will you come get my car out of the snow? Help me get my car out of the snow. I'm stuck in the snow here. So anyway. We didn't have that kind of access to our president when we were in school.
No, and that's something that has changed too.
Right.
And he he probably doesn't respond to them. I mean, we just talk about it in the office. He probably, hopefully, laughs at some of that. Right.
So if need be, we might respond to some of those. But yeah, ones like that, you just kind of.
Well, if you get enough of them, you need to do something.
Right. Yeah. It's a barometer. I mean, it helps what you need to do. So that's why you monitor it. They do a really good job of monitoring all that. The thing you have to do from a communication standpoint is just not overreact. I mean, 3 people complaining about something may not mean you've got a huge. So if you go out and make some big statement or try to do something, all you're doing is just making it bigger than maybe it is. But if it's a lot of people, and fortunately, in a lot of those cases, you can respond to people individually. You can try to assure them or give them an answer without it being broadcast to everybody. Because on things like that, I mean, if you get complaints by 4 people about something, the vast majority of people don't even know what you're talking about. So if you try to apologize for it or respond to it, you're just kind of bring it, you're shining a light on it that you don't need to shine. So anyway.
All those tricks of the trade you learn along the way. Huh?
Yeah. So.
Well, I want to switch gears on you just a little bit.
Sure.
About currently, this the state of the media and fake news and all of that. Do you have any comments on that aspect of communications?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, just because you don't like something news doesn't mean it's fake, and that's a lot of what seems to be the case with the current president. I mean, it's fake because he doesn't like it. I mean, being a journalist in the beginning, and I went into PR, so I mean, I was on the other side, but a democracy has to have a free press that helps us know what's going on. I mean, the problem today is with the internet technology is you got people who have a voice. Used to be everybody had a voice at the water cooler. Now everybody has a voice to the world if they want to spout something off and say things that are wrong. But that's why we need a free press that's continuing to report the news, and you have to on your own based on whether it's truthful. Every person has a bias. I mean, whether they like it or not, any reporter that goes into a situation is approaching something from somewhat of a bias. I mean, they may not, it may not, but they have a certain view, and who they're talking to has a certain view. And you've got to make sure you're not letting your bias get in the way of a story. And certain papers lean left, certain papers lean right, certain TV stations lean left, news channels, and same thing. You just need to know where those are from. And just the fact that things get so radicalized on the extremes is what causes so much trouble. And then you have people who are not really part of the media that are spreading things that don't help. So I've kind of rambled here to your original question, but we have to have a fourth estate that's reporting what's going on in our democracy, and if we don't, we'll no longer be a democracy. I mean, there has to be checks and balances on the people that govern our country, and the president and any president is this to some extent. I mean, anybody in power likes to think they can control things because they're about control. President Hargis is one of the things that I respect about him the most out of many is the fact that he understands the media's place in things. And, he's never once, when something came up that we didn't want in the paper, said, let's try not to talk about that. He knows they have a job, but some people in position of power think that they can control that. And I think, President Trump is even more of an extreme. He came from a TV reality, he had a reality TV show, which he controlled. And he's been, his whole life, he's controlled things. So, and I'm not trying to say one thing or the other about him as president, but that's kind of where he's coming from. He's a person that controls things. So he's not happy when he can't control the news, that it's all good. And in my mind, and I know you didn't ask me just about him, but, he needs to quit picking fights that he doesn't need to pick. He picks on people littler than him. And then if somebody says something, instead of just letting it go. He can't do that. That's not of his nature. And a person in leadership and power has to try to stay above the fray. He kind of relishes and lives in it. So, so anyway, I say all that just to say from the whole fake news and his involvement, but clearly we need journalists, we need people out there making sure that our government is doing the things that it's supposed to do, or you end up with a country that none of us really want. And
do they still teach three sources? You need 3 sources before you.
Well, I haven't
Put it out
probably. I haven't been. That's not something that I've been involved in, but certainly, if you're doing an investigative story, I think that's probably, what you would need is three sources. I mean, there's the Don Henley song where he says that, there's your story, my story, and the truth. So if you got 2 people, you've got 3 stories, I guess. So maybe if you get 3, one of them gets you to the truth. So, yeah. So, the state of the media, it's unfortunate the newspapers are having so much trouble. I'm amazed at how little the Oklahoman has gotten. And just the whole pay model of getting people to pay to look at things online is just really hard because people aren't used to doing it. And they'll pay for the New York Times, they may pay for the Wall Street Journal, but those are the elite. And, people are just not going to be that willing to pay for news from a bunch of different papers, I don't think. So it's tough, and I don't really know what the answer is, and we don't want these papers just folding up and dying. So we'll see where it all goes, but I'm not sure. Nobody has the answer to it.
Most people get their news from social media these days, or their next door neighbor, I guess.
Right.
Or even, and not even radio as much as they used to. So.
Right. Yeah, they get it from Facebook, and they see their feeds on Facebook, or so. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there's going to, I don't know that that's dumbing down things. I don't know that it is. It's just there's so much out there, and what do you believe? I mean, we all get things sent to us from friends, that a video about this or some about that, and it's obviously a particular view, and is it all true? I don't know. But if it's what you believe, then it's true. And that's to me the fear with the whole web model, is that you're only finding the things that you want to learn about. Mm-hmm. If you go through a newspaper and you go page to page, you're seeing what they're presenting as the news. I mean, it's their view of things. But when you get online, you're really, for the most part, just digging into what you want. I mean, you may go to the Oklahoman website, but all you want is their information about OSU football or OSU sports. You don't find that story on page 6 about, some homeless person that got beat up, or, and it makes you think about the community and what's going on in the community. So you're just getting the information that you want fed to you, instead of getting a broader look at things. So,
tunnel vision, in a sense.
Yeah, it really is. And Facebook, I have a Facebook account because I needed it for OSU, but I don't get on it. But I pretty much, the news you get fed is what they've determined is the news that's of interest to you. So the more you, just like when we see the ads on, it's only the ads for things we've gone and happened to look at online to look for a new shirt or something, and now all of a sudden all you see are these shirts. Well, maybe I didn't need a new shirt. Maybe I needed something else, but I'm not seeing any ads for that. So it just, but the newspaper, I just afraid, my sons are both one's 40 and one's almost 40, and they look online, but they don't take a newspaper.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Do
yeah,
you
I still
take?
I still take the Edmond paper, and I take the Oklahoman, so I take newspapers, but I still like to get ink on my fingers, so I still look at papers.
Well, we do too, but not as often as we once did, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot. Is there anything else you want to say before I ask my last question?
No, I don't know. I think you've touched on it. So.
Okay, we got to get you to your ball game. So my last question is, how do you want people to remember Gary Shutt?
Oh wow.
Yeah. When history's written about you,
wow.
What do you want it to say?
Well, I guess from the big standpoint, I mean, that he was a person who loved God and wanted to serve and be a better person, and has had a family that was doing things the right way and loved God. And so, I think it's all tied in your faith and your family. I mean, that's the lasting things that you leave. As far as OSU, I just hope that they, that he was a guy that was good to work with and helped move the university forward at a time when a lot of great things were going on, and worked well with other people, and other people enjoyed working for him and in that group, and had the same pride in what we accomplished that he did. So just that I played a little small part, and during an exciting time at OSU with so much stuff going on. Again, it's been a real honor to be here with all the buildings and the money that's come in, and the success on athletics and success in so many other areas, and just the transformation of the campus, which has been led by President Hargis, and Mrs. Hargis. So just to have been here during that, and done what I could to help, and people that worked with me enjoyed that experience, that they enjoyed the time they worked with me and didn't dread when I called them. So.
And you were an alum that came back.
Right.
So I have one more question then. What do you think it is about OSU that spurs that loyalty? Loyal and true. What do you think generates that?
Well, I think a lot of it is just our beginning and our legacy and history as a land grant. So most of the students come here from rural areas. Not most. I said a lot of the students from the rural Oklahoma come here, and Oklahoma, the people are just good people, and they want to help their neighbor. They want to be helpful and do their part. Some want to, achieve great things and go off and be incredible superstars like Garth Brooks. And many want to stay in Oklahoma and achieve great things here. And I think it's just that culture, and it's that being from Oklahoma and kind of having that history as an ag or rural school from that beginning. I mean, I think it's hard to shake that off probably for a university. And, Oklahoma's not a big state the two metropolitan areas are not huge. I mean, they're still very manageable cities to get around in, and so we get a lot of students from those areas. So they're certainly not rural, but I think it's just the people, good people, and it's a welcoming campus, and that has to get to the people. I mean, the people that work here and been here, and I think a lot of it is kind of that, and we're cowboys, whether it's cowboy spirit or whatever, of just kind of saddling up and doing your job and helping the other guy do his job, and not looking to really brag about it, but just humbly do your duty. So I think that is a lot about what OSU is. It's just people that come here to get an education, and they want to get along with other people, and then raise a family and go do great things. So, I don't know that answered the question, but
become part of the posse is what I'm thinking as you're saying that right along.
Right. So I think it's just that's kind of how we started, and you can't shake that out. So I guess a lot of it's like a family. Families can change as the people make decisions and do different things. But if they kind of stay cohesive as a family, if you look back, there's a lot of similar traits. I mean, you have ones that veer off and either do something terrible or do something remarkable, but the core of that family kind of continues on. So it's kind of where this university is. I mean, it's just that core of who we are continues.
And it feels like home, I guess. Is basically.
Yeah, I think so. People like to come back here, and athletics is such a huge part of a college experience. And if you are successful, people want to come back, and there's not a lot of reasons to come back to your alma mater except for sporting events and homecoming. I mean, there's activities like that, obviously, but that's tied around a football game. So that's when you have success there, it helps bring people back. And people come back because they've had a great experience here.
Academics has been good for them. Yes.
Right. Yeah, their experience with their faculty, and I mean, it's everybody. It plays a part. The faculty, the staff that make this a welcoming place. I mean, if everybody came here and couldn't stand their professors and didn't learn anything, it would.
We'd be out of jobs.
Yeah, it'd shrivel up real quick. But so it's everybody doing their job and doing a good job.
Okay. Well, that's a good note to end on. So
okay.
Thank you for coming, and
you bet.
And go Pokes.
Yeah, for sure.